You're listening to Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick in association with Wexford Insurances. Challenge us at Wexford Insurances 0818 31 30 30.
Good morning, I'm Karl Fitzpatrick and it's business time here on Southeast Radio. Welcome to this week's edition of Business Matters. You can follow me on Twitter at Karl Fitzpatrick or visit karlfitzpatrick.ie. Okay, let's get straight down to business. On this week's agenda, Tony Gallacher provides us with a comprehensive checklist of what business owners should consider before choosing a CRM system. And we speak to a budding entrepreneur who has a product which promotes the digitalisation of medical reporting here in Ireland. If there's any particular topic you would like to hear covered on the show, feel free to email the details to businessmatters@southeastradio.ie. Joining me now is IT consultant Tony Gallacher of AMG eSolutions. Tony, welcome back to the show. Customer relationship management systems have become very popular in businesses over the past few years, but with literally hundreds of them on the market, it's a minefield for business owners to choose the one that's right for them. Before we discuss how business owners should compare these, tell our listeners what CRM is all about, please.
It's actually a very interesting question because it all started over 30 years ago. And it started out with contact management solutions, just managing the people you knew. And it's evolved from there. In reality, it's about measuring the touch you have with your customers. That's why it's called customer relationship management. But it's not a one-size-fits-all situation because there's many flavours of CRM now. And that's the trap that a lot of businesses are falling into. What do I want to do?
That's one of the reasons I've asked you to come in and speak to us this morning. Over the last 15 months, I've had the opportunity, as you know, to meet with over 200 business owners across the county through this particular show. And one of the areas that I found that all of them had in place was a CRM system, which told me that the leading businesses out there today are using this system. So I suppose a small percentage of businesses across the county at this stage have one integrated with their own sales pipeline system and that. But let's just get specific. Usually, who within the organisation is using this?
Well, predominantly it's the sales and marketing group. And it's really to do with, are you going to be using this for your Salesforce automation? I'm going to use it for my customer service team. But it is driven by the sales and marketing operation because this is about growth and it's about sales.
And what are the benefits of using a CRM system generically?
The primary benefit is visibility. In that everybody in the business who has a requirement can see the information about a customer. So if salesperson 1 is doing something, has some form of touch with a prospect or a customer, his sales manager can come in and see exactly what's happening. It's visibility. It's making that sales pipeline visible across a wider group. It's making the ease of customer service, being able to pick up a call with a customer, an existing customer, and knowing what has gone on before. It makes that whole process of customer support easier and quicker.
My reason for this particular interview this morning is to provide business owners across the county with, I suppose, almost a ready reckoner or a list of prerequisites in terms of how they should go about searching for and identifying the best possible CRM system for their particular requirements. There's lots of considerations, but I suppose the first one being usability. What would you say about that?
Well, obviously usability is an important factor because you need the people in your business to be able to use it effectively. There are many, many different types of product out there. Usability is one of those very subjective things. What's usable for one person may not be usable for another. So the important consideration is knowing who in your business is going to use it, what they're capable of using, and finding a user interface that's simple to use, easy to work with, and more importantly, stops them wasting time. It's just all about improving sort of productivity, not creating a vacuum which sucks time from people into filling that system in place.
And I suppose that's one of the big fears that business owners have out there today, that if they were to get one of these systems in place, that from an integration perspective, it would eat an awful lot of time. But in addition to that, you say it's salespeople and marketing people that would be using this system traditionally. Well, instead of their time being spent out there selling, they now have to fill in forms and fill in data into this particular system.
That's very true. And in the early days, that was one of the biggest considerations that businesses had. I mean, they did some research in the early days, and this goes back to the early 90s, when they first started to include sales automation. And they actually found that 20 to 25% of a salesperson's face-to-face selling time was lost when they first started to sort of put these systems in place. Now, that's been recognised by the people who are making these systems, but still it's a big consideration, which means implementation is an important factor. People have to use it, but they have to use it in the right way. If your sales force is distracted from their primary function, which is face-to-face selling, it's not going to do you any good. The key to that is to make sure that you have an effective implementation plan. Know what you want to do. Don't try and do everything at once, and phase in what you're doing. That way you won't detract from your primary purpose of making cash.
I suppose before we get to the implementation, you have to go through a research function first to identify the right particular product. Another consideration would be the intuitiveness of the system itself and its ability to scale with the organisation.
And that's true. And that really comes down to the very first question that any business needs to ask. What do I want to do with this CRM system? Many people decide to go for the big bang. It'll do everything. And they actually only need a very small fraction of it. The more you put in place, the more likely is someone's going to play with it to try and sort of use every part of it. So every business should be clear at the outset. Ask the right questions. What exactly do I want to do with this CRM system? Make sure you have in place a product that's going to meet your need, and not something that you'll actually not so much grow out of, but actually get engulfed in all the other things that are going to distract you from what you're actually trying to do.
Lots of these CRM systems have become available on the cloud in recent times. What difference has that made to business owners?
Well, I think three big differences. One is availability. It's there for you all the time. The second one is cost. It's a far lower cost option to use a cloud-based version to try to sort of get an implementation of an on-premise version. But the biggest thing for most people is availability, that people can access these systems now from wherever they are. They don't have to worry about security issues of connecting into their own servers. Their sales force can access it via mobile devices as well as sort of laptops. Their internal staff can access it at any time from any PC. They don't actually have to have physical logins at each PC. So it's a low cost and usually easier option because it's actually sort of cutting down the real functionality to what you need.
Security is another consideration, especially for those that would be cloud-based. What are your thoughts in relation to how secure the information from a data protection is today?
Well, actually, that's two questions. There is security and there's data protection. Data protection is all about making information that you store about people available. That really is something that all of these people have got really tied down in terms of what you can store. The security issue of your data, and that's the important thing, it's actually quite an asset to a business. If I'm collecting information about prospects, the last thing I want to do is for someone to be able to have access to that, or potentially access to that. Once you go off-premise, you know that it's sitting somewhere in the cloud somewhere and you're relying on someone else's security. And that's why you should always check that if you're going to use a cloud-based service, you need to check their security standards. Is it sitting on a secure database? Is the access to that database secure as well, that no one else can sit in? Because one thing you need to understand is that most cloud-based systems work on what they call a multi-tenancy. In other words, it's one database, all the data's in there, but it's separated by a key, and that key is related to you as an individual. So if their data structure isn't sound, potentially someone else could see your data. Now, in saying that, most of the good cloud-based systems have got that sorted, but it is an important consideration. If you see a little niche product somewhere, just make sure you do your due diligence. Make sure it's actually secure as they say it's secure.
Tony, we discussed the factors that should be considered by business owners when selecting a suitable CRM system. Now I'd like to move on and discuss the implementation process and how easy it is to integrate with existing systems.
That's actually a big question. When they actually started putting cloud-based systems together, they didn't know what other systems people would be using. So when you're looking at integration, if you have a legacy system, and that usually is something that's been put in place on your own premises and it's been there a little while, you have to ask yourself, can I get the information out of my cloud-based system and import into my legacy system? Because it's unlikely they'll talk together. However, if you're using modern systems that may well be cloud-based, for example, you may be using some form of accounting package. You may be using some form of support desktop application. There are APIs, which is basically an application programming interface, a means by which one system can talk to another. So the first thing to do is list down all of those applications that you currently use that you need to continue using. And that becomes part of the questions you're going to ask when you talk to the provider of the service. will your application, your CRM system, allow me to communicate either by manual export import, or better still, an automated approach to communicate with my existing systems? And that will help you to decide which is the best product for you to use.
Do most of these systems on offer out there today provide the flexibility to configure with your own sales pipeline process?
They do, and again, this is one of the things that some will do it better than others. Anything that deals with sales pipeline, and not all CRM systems handle sales pipeline effectively, because some sales CRM systems really are concentrated on internal sales, managing existing customers. Some are related to Salesforce automation, but don't give in the whole thing of the actual sales pipeline. However, configuration of sales pipeline is saying, what is my sales process? As long as I have some means in which I can say I have a 10 or 5-step process, and I can make sure that my pipeline and my probabilities are related to my system, 95% of the CRM systems out there will allow you to do that if they have a sales pipeline function.
Something that has become even more important over the last number of years is its functionality in relation to email marketing, and even in more recent times, how it integrates with social media.
Yeah, I'll take those two as separate questions. The email marketing function is an interesting one, because in the early days, a lot of CRM systems tried to integrate their own email marketing within the package. But with the prevalence now of other products, things like Constant Contact and MailChimp and other type products, which people are used to using, a lot of the CRM systems now provide a connector to these external email marketing. So if you don't find a product that's actually got its own email marketing, just check, because a lot of them will have these connectors, so you can use your other systems if you wish. But it's usually there in some form or other, because it's an important part of any CRM solution, because a CRM is about managing your sales pipeline, and part of that is, how do I get in contact with my customers or my potential customers? So email marketing and campaigns is important and is usually there in all packages.
Just in relation to that, lots of businesses will be familiar with sending out emails and their emails being caught in spam filters. Is there a way to overcome that?
Well, one of the reasons that people have gone to specialised email marketing companies is that from your own mail server, the likelihood is if you send out more than 10 or 15 emails at a time, it can get trapped, it can get blacklisted. The reason why it doesn't in the external companies is that the servers that they use and the protocols they put in place allow them to be able to send out large emails in a particular format that avoid being blocked. Now, you can't block independent sort of spam filters. What you can do is make sure that you've got the right tools in place to make sure you've got the right subject matter, to make sure that the format of the email is correct, that's less likely to be caught in someone's spam filter. But the last thing you want to do is use your own business's mail server and find it gets on a blacklist because you're trying to do basically spam emailing, it thinks, and then you've got a hell of a problem, to be perfectly honest, trying to get away from that.
Let's go back to the social media question. Its importance for CRM systems to integrate and configure with those.
It is, and what you'll find is that the newer cloud-based systems have recognised the importance of social media. So they're allowing you to capture information relative to someone's Twitter account, LinkedIn account, or Facebook account, which you can't do in some of the older products, particularly some of the on-premises products, because it's a more difficult concept to put into play on an on-premise device than in a cloud device. But the thing you need to be considering is what information do I need relating to social media? Because remember, this is your side. Your customer's never going to have any contact with this. So this is about you being able to put information in that this individual I know has got a LinkedIn account. This individual has a Facebook account. So if you populate that information in, then you can go out regularly and pick up the information that they're, if you like, the traffic that they're putting through these social media elements and capture that within your own CRM. But like I say, if it's important to you, you're likely to want to look at the newer cloud-based systems to allow that functionality.
One of the great benefits of CRM from my perspective is its reporting functionality, and I know there's huge discrepancies between the different systems that are on offer. What advice would you give to those listening this morning from a reporting perspective in terms of what to watch for?
Well, the important thing about reporting is understand what you want. A report is an output. What information do you actually need to be able to run your business? If it takes you more than 2 or 3 clicks in a system to find the information you want, then it's not the tool for you. Sometimes you might want ad hoc reporting. That becomes even more complex. So what I would say is think simplicity. what reports do I need or my manager need, or if I'm a manager of the business, what reports do I need on people in my business who are using these tools that I can get within 2 or 3 clicks. That's the important thing to remember. It's simplicity, but understand what you want out of it. If it hasn't got it now, don't think it might be there in the future. Look for a system that's got it there now.
I know there's varying cost models available as well when it comes to CRM. Some of them offer a free model, some offer a freemium model, others offer an upfront fee, and others offer an ongoing payment. Just walk me through maybe some of the options in relation to that, please.
Well, if you mentioned the free versions, most of the companies are actually offering free versions. It's a cut-down version, usually limited to a small number of people using it, and usually it's between 1 and 3. And what they will do is they'll give you a flavour of what the CRM system can do for you, but you'll find very quickly that actually it's not doing everything you need. It's an enticement to get into the paid version. So what I normally say to people is, you see a free version, use it for evaluation only. You should be looking at the models of payment from one tier to the next.
Tony, I'm looking for you to provide your final piece of advice to business owners out there that may be considering implementing a CRM software system.
Probably my final shot at this would be to say, having done the analysis of what, so you know the type of product you want to implement, and you get into the how basis of implementing it in your system, do have some measure of success. Try to get the subjectivity out of this. You need to know, has my investment made sense? And that only makes sense when you've said at the beginning, my measure of success is. And it may well be as simple as saying, I need to know which of my salespeople are performing and which aren't in relation to sales pipeline. If you set that as your target, use it as an objective measure so you can actually say, yes, it's worked, or no, it hasn't. And if it hasn't worked, what do I need now to do to change it, to make sure it's going to work for me and deliver value?
You're listening to Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick in association with Wexford Insurances. Think Wexford Insurances for your business insurance.